Meeting starting. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You need to put 6 o'clock. Attendance, roll call. Tanya.
Here.
Tom.
Here.
Jeremiah.
Here.
Lisa.
Here.
Lori. Here. Linda. Here. Chuck is excused. And Sunny, Columbia. Before we adopt the agenda, I have a little thing here. Before we adopt the proposed agenda for the evening, I have one item I would like to add. I am proposing to add to the agenda item H7, which would be a closed session. The meeting would be closed under Minnesota Open Meeting Law, Minnesota Statute, Section 13D.05, Subdivision 3B, that authorizes the school board to close the meeting for the purpose of attorney-client privilege. The school board needs to close the meeting to discuss matters related to meet with its attorney in a confidential setting to obtain advice regarding potential imminent legal action related to an employee's claim against the school district and the school district's allegations and defenses related to these individuals. Can I then have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
I'd make a motion to adapt the agenda.
Jeremiah made the motion.
I'll second.
Lori did the second. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then we take a look at the consent agenda. Anybody have issues with anything on there that you want to take off? Talk about, ask questions for? Then I need a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I'll motion. I'll second that.
Tanya made the motion, Lori did the second. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And I believe we're gonna have Jody Zespa talk at us for a little bit. No, Zespa, not Bebold.
Oh.
We gotta talk about it first.
All right, good evening. So you have a pre-sale report from us as well as a resolution that I think is probably on your agenda in the action item section. But I can go through the pre-sale report if you want to bring that up on the screen. And we'll talk about this. So $1,125,000 of what's called certificates of participation. And that is just the tool that we use to finance lease purchase types of projects. So at the top of the page, you'll notice that that is our estimate of the amount that we would issue. The resolution that you have before you does include a $1,175,000 amount in case we don't get a premium bid, and I'll show you how that looks on the financial schedules. We're expecting to, but if we wouldn't, we still want you to be able to move forward with the financing. So the purpose of the financing is financing the construction of the artificial turf field, and that was included in the information that you sent to MDE for their approval before the levy process last fall. So this financing and this project has been underway for a while, and that was included on the levy that is now being collected for taxes payable in '25 because MDE reviewed and approved that. So the authority in that section, the statutory authority is 465.71, which is the lease purchase statute. And we are planning to issue these certificates for a pretty short term, so a little less than 10 years. And then we would have a call date on the certificates, just like we have a call date on your bonds, your outstanding bonds. The next page then references the rating process, so we will go through the rating process. Different than your general obligation debt and the bonds that you issue. These are considered annual appropriation bonds, and that's required by statute. The statute requires that the board always have the option to annually not appropriate funds for the lease purchase. We haven't had anybody do that, but you're required to have that language in. So the interest rate on the bonds is generally, on the certificates is generally a little higher. The rating is generally one notch lower than your rating on your general obligation bonds. You have a nice high rating on your general obligation bonds as at a AA3, so we would expect the certificates to go out with a rating of a single A1. In the middle of the page there, the method of sale, we will solicit competitive bids for the issuance of the certificates, just like we do for your bonds. And then there's a section there that describes the premium pricing, which I referenced earlier, and we'll talk about that when we get to the schedules. We are recommending that the board adopt the resolution tonight, including some parameters. And we do that for a couple of reasons. One is to provide us with flexibility on the day that we sell this debt. So generally, we take bids on the same day as your school board meeting. So your school board meetings are on Mondays, and that's when we have the most sales going on in the market. We don't generally get as many bidders on this type of a debt issuance because it's not general obligation debt. So to make sure that we get you as many bidders as possible and to make sure that we get you a rate that's competitive in the market, we are recommending that we have a parameters resolution in place so that you don't have to award the sale of the certificates. If you get a rate that seems like it's too high, then we can regroup and get bids again. So we are planning to take bids on April 16th, which is just a little in advance of your April school board meeting, and then we would have you ratify the award of sale at the April 24th meeting. So when we get the bids, we would have either the superintendent or business manager, so either Doug or Sherry, along with one board member, would sign off on the proposal form, assuming we get a rate that's 5% or less. And I think we've maybe done that one other time before, but that's how we have this one set up. So next, there will be some, you will be providing a ground lease to the, as part of this transaction, and all of those documents will be prepared by your bond counsel again. And then there's a couple more regulatory pieces of information on that page. Page 4 then talks about the investment of the certificate proceeds and other service providers that we're working with on the debt issuance. Page 5 then goes through the schedule from here forward. So the pre-sale report tonight, having the board consider the resolution authorizing the sale of the certificates and including that parameter. And then we will move forward with the rating process again. So the due diligence call and conference with the rating agency, distributing the official statement, and then receiving the bids, as I mentioned, on April 16th in advance of your board meeting, and having the board take action then to ratify the award of the sale at your April 21st meeting. And then we would close on May 15th, which should give you funds and time to get the project underway. Our understanding is that most of that construction will take place over the summer. So the financing schedules are very similar to the schedules that we prepared for submission to MDE last fall. They're just updated now with our current estimates. So again, if you look at page 6 of the pre-sale report, we're showing the par amount at $1,125,000 with a premium amount that we think the underwriter will pay in excess of the par amount. That allows us to issue the certificates at a little bit less, but still get you the money for your construction fund that you need for the construction of the turf athletic field. The next page is the detailed principal and interest schedule, and again, very close to what we were expecting when we put the schedules together and submitted them to MDE for your levy process last fall. And once we have the final results, next fall, MDE will adjust your levies to what the actual payments are. So that is everything. And the other item that you have is the resolution, and I can certainly stay around for approval of that later, or however you want to proceed with that action item.
Anyone want to make that motion already?
I'll make the motion to adopt the resolution.
Tom made the motion.
I'll second.
There it is. John, you second?
We're in sync tonight, maybe.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much,
Sounds great.
ma'am.
Thank you. Have a good rest of the evening, and we'll
Stop and get it to you.
see you in April. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, then, I believe any student representatives out there? Yes, ma'am. I'm glad you could join us tonight.
Thank you. Snow Days was a good success. We had $3,975 donated to us by local businesses, so big thank you to all of them. And our next big event for the Student Council will be the Color Run in May. Yep, thank you.
And I have two guests, Jody Bebo.
Don't have enough left. You have to share. Share? Sure. And share.
I'm Jody Bebalt. Is it on? And I'm going to read what I have to say. On Tuesday, February 18th, I filed a bullying prohibition report form with Mr. Folk in his office at 205 2nd Street South, Long Prairie. Prior to that date, I printed the bullying prohibition policy summary from the school district website. Nowhere on this page does it state that bullying prohibition is for students only. However, it is in the student handbook. I then proceeded to print policy 514, bullying prohibition policy. In section 2, general statement of policy, J states, the school district will act to investigate all complaints of bullying reported to the school district and will discipline or take appropriate action against any student, teacher, administrator, volunteer, contractor, or other employee of the school district who is found to have violated this policy. In our discussion prior to Mr. Folk signing and dating the document, I pointed out several sections of the policy that were appropriate to and for my complaint, and the required number of days for action. Today, I received Mr. Folk's letter indicating policy 514 and Minnesota statutes sections 121A.031 and 032 only apply to student or individual to student. Therefore, these reasons, he concluded there has been no violation of policy 514. So then I reviewed policy 514 again and Minnesota statutes, sections 121A.031 and 32, and I realize that anyone, staff to staff, me to you, any individual to any individual other than students can bully without any consequences. Therefore, I guess I will just dig into ethical concerns covered in LPGE's policy 209. And I have a copy of that here, and you can probably find it on the website. In another point I have is, I also understand that Superintendent Ludvigson has been removed from the building again. Was there a special unannounced meeting for that?
Thank you for your comments, Jody. I am going to murder this name, by the way.
I know it's one.
That'd be you.
I use it all the time.
Thank you. Can you say it for me loud and clear?
Miosotti.
Miosotti.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Good night, all. My name is Miosotti Nieves. I'm a business owner here in Long Prairie. I wrote a few stuff down. Me and my family thought our me and my family thought out of the committee of Long Prairie, voted 5 of you into a school board. You all stating that you were going to bring Daniel back into the school as a superintendent. Then why is he not in school? Why is he not allowed in school? The community voted you for this. We wanted Daniel back as a superintendent. He made the school a better place for our children. He is a friendly face to speak to. When you see him, our children miss him. Every time I went to school every morning, I would see him talking to the parents or the students. You need to stand up for the right and listen to the staff and the community that voted you in to bring him back. You all are hurting Daniel and his family and his 3 children by the way you're treating him. Stop, put him back into the office where he belongs. Let's quit playing games. Thank you.
Thank you, Mia, for your comments. Okay, we have Kyle and Chuck. Yes.
Good evening. Thanks for having us out here tonight. We're here for 2 reasons. Last fall, we did come to the board seeking approval for a spring music trip. And unfortunately, after doing some research into our situation, we decided it would be best to postpone the trip until 2026. One of the biggest issues we have is that although I have very large numbers in band, I have over a third of the high school and high school band at this point, and we could push 90 next fall. A very small percentage of those students really lack sufficient fundraising monies to go on a trip. You know, out of those 85, we have 6 seniors, I believe about 17 juniors, and the rest are freshmen and sophomores. And for whatever reason, whether they haven't grasped the idea of selling hoagies or whatever it is, weren't in a real good position to gather the parents and say, hey, your child can go to Florida if they give us $300 a month for the next 4 months, the next 5 months. And, you know, that's not solid practice. And what usually happens is we end up losing a lot of kids who don't go, which creates a tremendous issue for us because when we go on music trips, we actually perform. And if we're missing over half the band or over half the choir, it's a no-go. And so after a bit of discussion, and we talked to Mr. Root about it, and he's the one that suggested that we come forward. We came here seeking 2 requests. Number 1 is to be able to postpone the trip to 2026, which means we're going to start talking about it now. We're going to start having parent meetings in probably late March so that they can prepare financially and they understand what's going on. We have a couple of barriers. You know, we have many, many students whose parents do not speak English, and we have to make sure that they're served, that we have translations for them. Just so many moving parts, and we just, you know, given the financial situation, we didn't really get things going like we should have in the fall and decided this would be best practice. Plus, the kids will all be a little older, and, you know, taking kids that age can be a challenge. We want to make sure that they're ready to go. So that leaves us with our current crop of seniors. I have 6 seniors in high school band this year. Mr. Lamb has 14?
10.
10? Okay, so that's 16 total.
Yeah.
And they have raised monies over the years, and we're expecting a senior trip. And so we're here to request a one-off overnight senior trip for our seniors to take them on a trip where they can spend the money that they have raised to go on such a trip, that Mr. Lamb and I would personally accompany them on. This trip would take place after graduation, probably around the last week of school. But we would still be back in time to take care of our duties.
grades.
Our duties and whatnot. We would be back.
manage our classes
We would be
and
back.
things.
It would be basically probably a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Wednesday, Thursday trip, leaning towards Tuesday, Wednesday, so that we can get back on Thursday and Friday and take care of our business. And that's kind of what we're looking at. And if you have any additional questions about where we're going with this, I'm more than welcome to answer those at this time, or Mr. Lamb would as well.
Yeah.
How much were you short?
Well, it wasn't really necessarily short. Without naming student names, I can give you an example. Like, for example, I have a sophomore that has raised approximately $5,000 since I started selling hoagies. So obviously, that sophomore is not going to have any trouble paying for a trip that's going to cost about $1,500 per student. And we can certainly allocate some of that with his permission. I mean, the money belongs to the school, just to be clear. When the students raise funds, they are raising funds on their behalf to be used for the trip. It's not like personal money that they can do whatever they want with. However, we do have a little bit of leeway to say, okay, you have way more money than you need. You have a cousin or a sibling. In this case, this student does not. But then we have several students that have raised very little. So all of a sudden, we're in a position where we're telling the parents, hey, it's $1,500 to go to Orlando, and had we started in December with these parents, then we could put them on a payment plan, and suddenly they have to come up with $1,500, do the math per month. Bills usually do, and at the time, we were traveling in late March.
Okay.
So all of a sudden, they have 3 months to come up with $1,500, and you can guess the answer that they would give, well, we won't go. Fine, we're just not going to go. And we are trying to avoid that. We really thought about how we can redo this and start much earlier and make sure that all the kids have an opportunity to go. Because the reality is, some kids raise the money, they work really hard. Some parents can afford to send their children without raising money. And then there are parents that will send their children and will help pay the bill if they have enough time. And that is the largest number of kids that we have in that case. So that is the reasoning behind our changes that we're proposing.
We want to give everyone a chance to be as successful as possible with being able to do this trip.
And that, again, we don't want to go missing half the band or half the choir. It makes a lot of trouble too for us to be able to perform, because we go on these trips not just so they have fun, but also so that we can do workshops. And we usually do a workshop when we go to Disney, and we do a public performance. And that's an audition performance. And the other thing is, if I send them a tape of 85 kids playing a band and we show up with 30, they're going to be like,
Doesn't sound the same.
it's not just that. They'll call us out. They've gotten very strict. In fact, I have to present my audition to them by the end of May. The deadline is a year in advance.
Yeah. No, I understand.
I'm glad you asked. I wanted to specify what we're doing here. So
Do you have a plan, like for the senior trip? Do you have kind of some ideas on where to go?
we do.
We've been thinking of a few different options, and we've been preliminarily discussing some of them to see what seniors are most interested in. We could do something within the state, such as like a Chanhassen trip. We've looked at potentially flying out to Denver. Those flights are not crazy expensive. So we've been looking at a couple different options. And it's all based on what things can we do when we're there that would be
Well, and it's not a very long time frame either.
exactly educational and also of interest. So details still to be worked out of that, but those are kind of the two main
But what we
flavors.
can tell you is that the trip would have an educational flavor for them. And, we try to make it fun and fool them into thinking that it's just fun and they're not learning anything. But, and as seniors, you think, well, they're at the end, but they've earned the money to take this trip. And, we're looking at public performances of music or opera or musicals, plus other opportunities to meet with artists and other things like that. In addition to some of the usual things like a trip to possibly the mall, a Valley Fair or something, if we stay in the state. As far as other cities, we'd looked at, our main criteria is where can we fly that's cheap? And that list is Denver, to a certain extent Nashville, which would be a good trip we took in 2015, several years ago. But it's going to be probably a 2-day trip, one night, and we're gonna pack absolutely as many things as we can into it.
It's gonna be a great time.
That's what we're looking at doing. Because they were understandably, we're disappointed when they discovered that they were able to do this. And we felt bad, but to be honest, it's better to do this now than if we have, 47 seniors or 35 seniors, which I might have in 2 years.
Yeah.
And so so this is kind of where we're at with that, so.
Do they need a motion from us?
Well, that's what I was gonna ask. Did the board take action previously?
Board approved a band trip for the spring of I apologize.
Yeah, it's
We did
okay.
this so many years by
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
Mr. Lamb and I have been traveling together now.
A music trip, the board approved a music trip
For this year, so we just basically need your blessing to go to 2026.
Updating us.
Yeah, so basically what we're asking for is approval to plan a spring 2026 trip with the idea that, you guys can at some point make sure, or I think the best practice would be that we are communicating with Mr. Rood and that he green lights to make sure we're not doing anything we're not supposed to be doing. But the two things we want to do is take a full music trip in the spring of 2026, band and choir, and we want to take our music seniors on a overnight trip this year in the spring of 2025, correct?
I would say we need a motion for that.
I would make a motion to approve the
Tom.
trip for next year,
Second.
trip this year for seniors.
Jeremiah did the second. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you so much for your
Give us a-
time.
Appreciate it.
Give us some pictures.
Oh, absolutely. I will say real quick,
100%.
we'll say real quick that next Tuesday, the Long Prairie Grayville High School Band is traveling to North Dakota State University to participate in the Raging Red Band Festival. There are 53 bands in 5 divisions over 3 days. The last time we went, we were the second best. Over 2 days, we were the best band of our day in our division and the second best band over the 2-day festival. We were edged out by Fargo Shanley High School. This year, there are 3 days, and we're going on Tuesday, so we'll be playing it. There is a live stream link. I think they are. If not, we'll put up a video afterwards. And then the week after that, we have large group contest hosting at Long Prairie Gray Eagle. And 2 weeks after that, Mr. Lamb is hosting a large group choir. And those will be live streamed if anybody wants to watch those festivals.
Are those in at
Yep.
school too? They're
Yep.
both
It
band?
is our turn. Every 3 years, we host, for a high school league
It's our turn.
contest,
Yep.
we host every 3 years, and it's our turn this year. I've done it 4 times since I've been here, so.
I'm sure we can probably get those posted on the website, right? Or on the Facebook page.
Megan's right back there.
Yep, I have links for her.
We got it.
It's a little bit early, they get kind of buried, but sometime next week, I was planning on sending Megan the links. We already have the live stream link for band ready to go. We just have to do the choir one.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Very much. Next, activities report. Anybody have a question for Kelsey back there?
Kelsey, I actually do have a question for you.
Yeah,
How close with the grant coming through from the NFL for football coaches, how close are we to finding a coach? Do we have any applicants?
so right now, I have one who started the application process. I've had a phone call with someone from out of town who's interested in it. And I have a community member who's wavering with logistics with their,
So we do have a possibility that we could have somebody in place to take advantage.
Yep, yep.
All right, thank you.
No problem. Anything else? You guys have any questions about like the junior high basketball stuff?
I understand that. Okay, perfect. Have you heard anything about we're going to 1A or 2A or?
No, so our classification numbers will probably come out Thursday or Friday. We usually come out during state wrestling tournament, so.
Of course.
Yeah. And then Monday I'll file the appeal. I have all the data and everything that I need. So Monday I'll do that, and then I think March 14th is the date where we should hear back, so. Fingers crossed.
Okay, Mr. Evenson, anything for community ed or Century 21 or any of that?
How was preschool open house?
Oh, that's this week.
Oh,
Actually,
oh, it's tomorrow, okay. Oh, I had a week. It's going fast. I know.
Time flies. Okay, technology, Mr. Gansky. Anybody a question for him? Why we're quiet this evening? Principals reports. The donuts is tomorrow or Friday, right? This week.
Friday, 8:56 to 9:00.
Do you guys have,
What details?
for the Day Without Immigrants, the protest that was happening around the nation with students, did we have anybody that sat out for that or skipped days for that you know of, or?
So we had approximately 30 students district-wide that called in stating that that's the reason they were gone.
So we had 30 students that participated in that.
Approximately.
Okay, how about, have we seen an increase in absenteeism from that population?
Nothing substantial that we've noticed.
I had a conversation with Janice Britannia that day especially. You can look at the numbers, but if you look at it as a general, it's hard to distinguish, one day from the other in that capacity. So you can say it's one thing. I think if you did a deep dive into it and really get some with the data, I'm sure you can find a little more detail with it. But comparing it to the rest of the month, it didn't show any abnormality with the numbers.
Have we had any increases in how do I want to word this? Bullying or anything around that, or no?
There's definitely anxious people out there. I can say as of last Friday, there was not one school in the state of Minnesota that has had visitors from ICE.
And we both had our conventions, whatever you want to call it, the last couple of weeks, and that is definitely a talking point, within our conferences within the principals, so.
Okay. All right, that's all I had.
The inflatables came at the perfect time.
I know, we looked like geniuses because it was that cold up, so yeah, but it just worked out. It was wonderful though. I would highly recommend that Top Gun fun inflatables. They were excellent, so easy to work with.
The district office even enjoyed it.
Not me.
I heard it should be a week or longer because 2 days just wasn't enough.
That's wanting more.
Anything else for our principals? I've heard nothing but good things for snow days. Very good.
Yeah, I thank the community. The community really does a great job of, donating. And I'll tell you, because there's really two. Mr. Adala and Mr. Kent, they're busy with the ice fishing along with snow days, but they've always, we've been doing this for about 20 years now, and they've created their own kind of world encapsulated. So when I go out there, the kids just enjoy it. There's always the kids that have never gone ice fishing before, and that's always a big treat. So I think it's a great opportunity for our kids to have a day like this. So thank you to the community. That's a big deal.
It looked like they caught some fish too.
Yeah, actually they
Nice
were.
size.
Everybody's looking for the big northern or muskie, but no, it was good. Everybody caught some fish.
All right. Anything else for our principals? Okay, Mr. Brooke, your turn.
So at your station this evening was a revised enrollment sheet. I kind of had I do this right away as soon as we get the enrollment reports from the building, so it was a while ago, but I didn't feel comfortable with my math when I was inserting it into the spreadsheet and that kind of thing and doing it, and I forgot one of the things that I was copying and pasting, and so that turned out, and I went back and I don't like this, and so I went back and sure enough, that's what it was a copy and paste issue on the Excel spreadsheet. So anyway, for all intent and purposes, I think I mentioned to you previously that we were even across the board month over month. Well, that wasn't the case after we made the corrections and put the actual numbers in into the spreadsheet. It showed a +5, so that was a good thing when we talk about January over December or month over month. So that was a good thing. It should be 968 there, and So again, that's also the interesting part about that, that the enrollment continues even year over year, continues to remain steady. And you can see that by comparison when you do month over month and then year over year. So in some respects, that's a good thing. And so, but that also makes you look closer at the data, knowing that you should be, that you are close, but could you be that close when it was the same? So that's what triggered me to go back and look, and certainly that was the case. So you have your updated and more accurate enrollment spreadsheet. So again, 968 kids in seats for over the month of January. So, and again, much like we were last month at this time, we sit here in the last week of February. So logistically, I'm sure the offices will be cutting another report by the end of this week, or obviously next week on Monday for an updated enrollment report. But what we will learn from that report then is that we're about at that 50% where you kind of get a good idea, because it's referred to as average daily membership. So that number should be right at that halfway point of the year, or that 50% being average. And so that'll give us a good point, or a good idea of where that enrollment number will come in June. So as it goes, then you have the reports for month over month and year over year. I also threw out I don't think we did it last month, I also threw out your food service business and how things are progressing. As you can see then, over last year, we sit at about just under 4,300 more meals served this year than last year. The bulk of that coming on the breakfast side. But both are running positive this year compared to last year at this time. So that's pretty solid good news. Item number 3 talks about the February forecast. The legislature, of course, is waiting for this as well. This is the state's forecast. Obviously, we talked about this once before when we had the November forecast before the session started, which we received in the first week of December. This is no different. They get a second budget forecast for the legislature to work with, which everybody in the state will be looking for. And of course, that means that they typically, they always say a February forecast, like we should receive it in February. That typically doesn't happen. It usually happens in the first week of March. This will be a big driver because more actuals will have come in, particularly as it talks about the state's budget surplus that was announced in February, but a significant deficit for the out years of 27 through 29. And so I think this will be a little bit more, I don't think the current budget cycle will be as lucrative as what they said earlier. I think it was like 600 million or something, 15 years ago, that would have been a pretty nice budget surplus, but we've become so accustomed to billions of surplus that I just don't think we're gonna be in that position. Who knows, I could be wrong. One of the things that I put up on the slide too was the 2.7% current rate of inflation. That is what was announced on what the MSBA call on Friday, where they were talking about this forecast. That if you will recall, the legislature last year or 2 years ago with the budget, with their budget, they put into the per pupil formula allowance an inflationary factor. So it could never be less than this percent. So they announced then that as they create a new budget, well, for us, as we're looking to fund next year, will it be a minimum of 2.7% on the general funding formula? So I thought that was a real interesting that, oh yeah, we'd all forgotten about that, but here it is. 2.7 over the years, pretty steady. If it's that. So we'll see what happens. Items 4 and 5, for you, just wanted to put that out for us to look forward. Next month at this time, we hope to have a current year budget revision for you. We've been talking internally, like shooting for the March board meeting to bring that forward. And just to give you an idea of where things are going, things are progressing this current fiscal year. You all received what we referred to as a general fund update back in December, I think, which was just Fund 1 to get an idea of where we were. This will obviously bring into account all funds. So be looking for that. And then also on number 5 in capital projects, we spent a little time with the Buildings and Grounds Committee last week looking at the capital projects list. It is significant. You have a lot of things going on this summer. And kudos to you for that. But we will bring, I think we'll want to maybe show the Buildings and Grounds a little bit more of updated information before we bring that to the full board. But that'll be here at the March board meeting as well. So a lot of neat projects for you, that's for sure. And we'll wait and see what those look like. And that's all that I have.
Very good. It would be nice if we got 2.7 every year. I skipped over the board reports. I have one report. I went to officers training this week and last week. Very good information again. And it's funny how you've been to that training more than once and it's still different every time. We also did at MSBA, Chuck and I. You went with us to the negotiations one? No?
It was Lori and you and I.
Yeah, that was very good information too, so. That's what I've been busy with. Anybody else go to anything? Do anything?
I went to officer training for clerks and got some really good information.
I did not attend any of those trainings, but I did want to give a public shout out to the hockey team for the conference championship and to the 4 wrestlers going to the state tournament this weekend.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Oh, then I have one to Mrs. Savula said, be sure to thank the school bus drivers because last week was National Appreciation Day. So we absolutely want to appreciate those guys for keeping our kids safe. Thank you, thank you. All right, let's see what's next. Unfinished business, we have to approve the cell phone policy. Anybody have some questions you'd like to ask the principal or something about that?
Madam Chair, members, if I could, just to set the table a little bit for the discussion here. We placed the MSBA model policy within the packet as a guide for the board in facilitating this discussion. As you can see, and I know Lori had a question for me today in that regard, and as you can see, it leaves spots open. And it talks in generalities and that kind of thing. That is done purposefully, okay? So what MSBA did for you was create a broad model policy so that you could work your way into, with your local policy into 524.5. Okay, so that's kind of when you saw that and it would talk about what are we actually approving here? Yeah, really, it's what'll happen now is whatever the decision the board makes relative to the recommendations coming from Mr. Root and Mrs. Sabula is that that recommendation would be crafted in 524.5 after tonight. Okay, so I just want to kind of set the table for that.
We need to have that done by March 15th, but it won't be active until next fall. Okay.
And these can be revised, just like our other policies, as on a yearly basis, or.
Correct, as that sits today, yes. Obviously, I don't mean to digress, but as we know, then there was also legislation heard before various committees last week that talked about a complete ban statewide, that would, if passed, would go into effect in 2026. So, with the start of the 26-27 school year. So, I mean, that's it. So yes, right now, today, yeah, you can make those changes as you deem necessary.
Are you looking for a motion on it?
I believe so.
Make a motion to accept the self-employed policy we have and with the recommendations from the principals.
Got it. Tanya makes the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Tom makes the second. Is there any more discussion on that?
I just want to add one thing, we're gonna be bringing to you in June, most likely it'll be June, our handbook policy. So between now and then, as, you know, as things, we're gonna be talking about it more, cause this is a topic that's got 50 right answers there. And, you know, everybody brings up this scenario, that, it is, and I don't want us to be pegged with one thing, we gotta keep it broad enough, because having a conversation with my staff, they asked Mr. Hood, what about, you know, we're not school from 1985 anymore. We've got college classes going on. We've got different concerns now than we had 40 years ago. So we have to take all those things into play. So we want to make it broad enough that we don't get wedged into one way of thinking. We can start having a little bit more broad discussion now, and then, you know, as we get approach June, maybe we tweak it here and tweak it there. And we have that ability now. So that would be my 2 cents worth.
Guarantee you make a rule and somebody will figure out that we need to change it, so.
You know, and hopefully we've thought of everything, you know, in that sense, and you always worry about that, to be honest with you.
Okay. Yep,
May I ask a question?
quickly.
Okay. Is cellular bullying part of that bullying process that you were talking about? It is. Okay, good.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second, and we discussed it. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll discuss the calendar for next year with the maybe changes.
Yeah. Sure, I'll take that. I don't have a lot in light of things that we learned last week, relative to the HVAC, project and their work schedule. So I think as I had written, to you, why, the scheduling calendar for, the contractors, lines up from June 2nd to August 22nd. And as such then, what that would mean, without any type of alteration to a calendar, we basically have a week to get our custodial staff, in place to clean the high school. I don't know how realistic that is. And so, I know administratively, we talked, a little bit this morning, or this afternoon, about potentially looking at a later start date as opposed to an earlier start date. And again, everything has to go well inside that proposed calendar, and obviously, are we all able to get parts? Are contractors gonna be timely? You know, everything has to go well. So, we think what we'll probably do is examine a later start date than, Tuesday after Labor Day. And in theory, then that would mean that September 2nd, through the 5th would likely be that teacher in-service week. And then start on Monday, the 8th of September. So we're gonna develop a calendar with that in mind, just to see how things fall, and then go from there. It's difficult, as much as we talk about some of the great things that we're doing from a project standpoint. This certainly will change our comfort level.
Would that then push back like graduation, the end of school now a week or 2, or however it would be?
Yeah, you know, you look at those things, you know, and again, you know, I know I'm starting to hear some things, where's a calendar, because people have those things in mind. Exactly, so.
So would it be any easier to lengthen a day now? So like if we started now, you'd have March, April, and May, where you could lengthen a day this year, therefore cut this year short?
to get them in here sooner. We could go back to the contractors and ask them,
If they
I
could,
mean,
yeah.
if they could make that adjustment and move up. It's, the other part is families and plans that they have, does that impede plans? I mean, I don't know why it would, because their plans are, they have to be here anyway, right? They should be in theory.
That might impact sports though, because baseball and track,
Well, and then
softball, they're all.
It's the same with graduation.
Mhm.
If you move that up a week, people aren't ready for that either.
Yeah, I know, I don't know if we rent places here and hold graduation parties at different venues. Maybe that doesn't change, I don't know, but there are things like that.
Have you consulted staff about this yet too, to see their?
Not yet,
Okay,
not yet.
I think that might be important to do
I
as well.
think that's the first thing you gotta do.
Yeah, yeah, again, this was new, and that's why we had hoped to have some different options, but certainly that threw everything out. That threw everything in a tizzy, I guess.
And we have to have 175 days, yes, for our school year.
We have to have 165. That's what's in the statute. However you frame that up
But we have always had 175.
contractually,
I
right?
think.
And there is action, and then that number is, is exactly,
Yeah.
that number is actually 184, I
I
think.
think that's what it is, yeah, for the teacher contract.
Correct.
Do they need to have student contact for all 175 days? Would it be possible just to shave the last 4 days off and have workshops or something like that, those 4 days after Memorial Day, to facilitate possibly the contractors coming in that week earlier to get preliminary stuff lined up so they can start rolling right away?
Right, and if you recall, we did a lot of study on that when we had that issue relative to December 22nd, and December 23rd laying out there all by itself. And so we had to look at, one, we learned about seniors, because they're not held to a minimum day requirement. They do have minutes, but that's it. The rest, however, do, with the exception of kindergarten. So we'd have to look at that and see how that would factor into a shortened year and see if we make it. So because that was a big concern when we brought December 23rd to the table. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
No, it does. Basically, we don't know it, but we'll factor in.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So
We have to do some math.
I think that would be something to look into, just, you know, that way hopefully we don't shift the other next year too much.
Yeah.
And it'll give the custodians some time to start doing their prep also, if they need to.
I think that would be all the elementary staff. The high school staff comes over here, gets this building spotless, and then goes over there at the end of the thing, and they all work over there to get that building going.
Correct.
Something like that.
Yeah, right, and that was part of our conversation. I think that's what you did last year too.
I think so,
Yeah.
something like that. Alrighty, so you guys got your jobs cut out for you.
Yeah.
Okay, next thing on new business is the donations, and it's quite a list, so get ready. Greg Bertram Lions Club gave $1,000 to the activity day. Hillig Auto Center gave $200 to the activity day. Long Prairie Sanitation gave $100 to the activity day. John Weiss Ford gave $50 to the activity day. Breidenfeld Group gave $75 to the activity. CTC gave $250 to that activity. Long Prairie Rotary Club gave $150 to the activity. Vanguard Insurance Services gave $50 to the activity. American Legion Post 112 gave $500 to the activity day. Selma Law Office gave $250 to the activity day. Double R Saloon gave $100 to activity day. Hometown Abstract and Title gave $100 to activity. Minnesota National Bank gave $50 to the activity. Steve Neville, who owns Neville Hardware in Gray Eagle, gave $500 to the activity day. Trinity Lutheran Church Ladies Circle gave $100 to the activity day. Gray Eagle Electric gave $50 to the activity day. Daybreak Foods gave $100 to the activity day. Minnesota National Agency Incorporated gave $50 to post prom. Alexandria Area USBC gave $200 to post prom. American Heritage Bank gave $100 to post prom. Advantage One Insurance Agency gave $50 to post prom. Todd County Veterinary Clinic gave $30 post-prom. American Legion Post 12 gave $300 post-prom. Long Prairie Plumbing and Heating gave $25 post-prom. Grayville Bertram Lions Club gave $1,000 post-prom. Graves and Associates American Family Insurance gave $100 post-prom. Jenkins Iron and Steel gave $200 post-prom. Prairie Family Dental gave $100 post-prom. Jeff Berg Financial gave $100 post-prom. Minnesota National Bank gave $100 post-prom. Long Prairie Packing gave $100 post-prom. Todd Wadena Electric Cooperative gave $50 post-prom. Selnell Law Office gave $200 post-prom. Hometown Abstract and Title gave $100 post-prom. East West Realty of Long Prairie gave $100 post-prom. We greatly appreciate all of those wonderful, fantastic donations that these folks have given us. Thank you, thank you. Then we are on to approving the Harmony Park agreement with the city.
Need a motion on
Oh, I'm sorry. I need a motion on the donation. I got tired.
Could you repeat those? I'll make a motion.
Lisa made the motion. Tanya made the second. Any discussion? Any discussion? Thank you for the help. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, thank you. Now we can talk about Harmony Park.
So the Harmony Park repaving project document was, or is in the packet for your review. The Buildings and Grounds Committee, like I said, met last Wednesday, and we had quite a discussion about this document. And I would yield to Tanya, Tom, Lisa on our conversation, and then we can go from there with some updates too. Want to share anything?
I guess I didn't really have anything that reads pretty much as it is, and it's, I think you clarified it well in the notes that it's holding, it's just for the paving intent and the whole harmless. So just for the portion of the contract where it's being paid.
Figure that out.
What's that?
Did we figure that out?
Yeah. Yep, he cleared it up, and it was in the board packet. He had spoke with Candy. It's just for the duration of the time while the parking lot are being overlaid for research.
Yep. So one of the agreements that we had with the city, which was the fact that, that we would cover the cost of the paving, and then the snow would not be piled there anymore. So one of the things that the committee discussed was the fact that snow issue wasn't identified in this document. Again, what Tom was saying, well, it isn't about that, it's about the project. And the agreement is about the project. So I mentioned that with Candy Bruder of the city, and so what she has done is within the city's minutes from February 12th, she is going to place in the city's minutes that in fact the city will not pile snow there. So what we'll want to do probably from a document storage kind of thing, is maybe as soon as we get those minutes, attach it to this. And so we've got it on file. So, and I think that suffices, that they actually said, yeah, we're not going to, pile snow there. So I think we're good to go, on the committee, with this agreement.
And I suppose I need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Lori makes the motion.
I'll second it.
Tom seconds. Any discussion? Any further discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, now we'll be able to park.
There you go.
Okay, then we need the flashers agreement for the 287 over there. And you guys talked about that again at your committee meeting. Got any words of wisdom?
Hopefully they find a way to do it cheaper.
Cheaper isn't necessarily always the best.
That isn't what I meant.
All right, then I think we need a
Are they
motion.
only flashing during school hours or all the time?
If I understand and know basically what it is a punch button, so, it'll flash in those school times, but punch, you push the
Just
button and
push the
it'll
button
start
anytime.
flashing.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not gonna get on all day.
Right.
When is the expected install date for those?
That would be determined when the 287 project will be completed.
And I'm not sure that they have a contractor yet either on
They
that.
do not, they're gonna be going out for bids shortly, or they're out for bids and letting it be in March or April. Jim might be able to say when the bid letting for that will reach.
Oh, okay.
So we need a motion for that one. To approve.
Yes.
I'll make a motion.
Lori's got the motion on the flasher system.
I'll second.
Tom is a second. Any further discussion? Those are good questions. I didn't think about it. They were gonna flash all the time. Any further discussion? Any further discussions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are just spending money. Ooh. The number 4 there, Mr. Froh, can you really explain that a little bit? Amend Title IX 24 policy, to revert it back to the Title IX policy from 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the initial actions by the president had to deal with, and again, it speaks to that under the MSBA attachment, had to deal with vacating some of the benefits under a 2024 Title IX sex discrimination, non-discrimination policy. So he repealed that and by an executive order. So in order for you to function as a school district, MSBA is recommending that all districts take action to rescind any action that you've taken relative to an amended policy in 2024 and replace it with the policy that the district had in 2020. Also, because there was a revision in 2022, which this district did do, that will suffice. So, that's what I can give you at this particular point in time. In talking with, Terry Morrow, the attorney at MSBA, he basically said that the 2024 version of Title IX possibly is basically null and void now. So you have to have something in place to address protocols around complaints. That would be the 2020 version, which is with the revision of 2022, which is in your packet.
Which policies would we be giving up on that?
Pardon me?
Which policies would we be removing then?
So you're taking out a policy that you may have passed in 2024. It's the same model policy 522, same number. It's just that anything related to what was passed in 2024 is now gone. And we're going back to a 522 that was passed in the year 2020.
Right, so I understand all that. I'm looking
Okay.
for specific policies that we would be removing then.
Just the one.
Specific, you're looking for specific
Yeah,
verbiage.
yeah.
I'm still not following you.
So I know you want to revert it to what
Yeah.
it was in 2021, but from 2024 would be the one that we have implemented now, right?
Correct, you rescind that.
Yeah, so
Correct.
we'd be rescinding that, so.
Yes.
I guess I was looking for specifics.
So,
Like the girls, if they're playing in the,
It'd be transgender issues.
Yep.
right?
it is relative to transgender issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
so I would need a motion to that effect.
I move to approve to revert back to the 2020 policy revised in 2022, I believe.
All right, Tom made the motion. Tanya did the second. Is there any further discussion? Any further discussions? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Yeah, that was just with like you said. All right, then, to review, revise, and approve Board Policy Series 300. I hope y'all took a read at those. I know reading policies is not most interesting, but there's a lot of good information in there. Kind of tells us how to act. It tells, this one has got to do with superintendent and principal administration. It's a good thing that we go over these every year. We really, this is a good thing that we're doing, reading all of them, forcing us to read them and reapprove all of them. Yep, it is, they're good. So, I believe we should have a motion to approve those and then discuss if there's anything you want to take out, chat about.
I'll make a motion to approve them.
Motion by Lori,
I'll second.
second by Lisa. Any discussion? Any more discussion? Any more discussion? All those in favor of accepting those policies, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. And now we are doing the addition to the agenda. And for you folks listening at home, when we close this meeting, we will set up a new stream after that you can listen to after the closed session reopens. As of now, we don't know how long that closed session is going to last. So stay tuned.
Can you tell us what the closed session is about?
To discuss, yeah, I read that beforehand, didn't I?
Yeah, I don't know.
School board needs to close the meeting to discuss matters related to meet with its attorney in a confidential setting to obtain advice regarding potential imminent legal action related to an employee's claim against the district and the school district's allegation and defenses related to these individuals.
Thank you, Linda.
That's what I'm telling you.